afternoon's MC, Deputy Erie County Executive Maria White.
Thank you so much, Peter, for that. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to Dr. Balkin and the SUNY Erie team for hosting us. As Peter said, I am the Deputy County Executive, Maria White, very proudly so, co-chair of the Erie County Emergency Child Care Task Force. And together with my other co-chair, the amazing, not present at the moment, but on her way, Commissioner Marie Cannon from Department of Social Services, I'd really like to welcome you to the Child Care is Everyone's Business press conference. In addition to our speakers, which I will be introducing just momentarily, I'd like to acknowledge a few very special guests. We have with us today State Senator Sean Ryan. Would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. And Assemblymember John Rivera, who is also with us today. Thank you. We've got the chairperson of the Legislature's Health and Human Services Committee, Lisa Shamara. Where is she? Right here. And I think Legislator Chairwoman April Baskin will also be joining us. We've got Dr. Ellen Grant, who is here representing Mayor Brown's office. Is the chairwoman here? Not yet. Okay, and also hopefully on their way is a representative from Governor Hochul's office as well. And we are also joined by President and CEO of the Amherst Chamber of Commerce, AJ Baines. Thank you so much for coming. So to get us started, I'd really just like to tell you three things: why we are gathered here, who is here, and what it's going to take to get out of here. In the simplest terms, we are here because the child care system is already a train wreck. It was already a train wreck before COVID, and it is facing a host of crippling problems. Chief among them is the poverty wages in the industry. They are particularly problematic because they not only reveal the gender and racial pay inequities in the sector, but also because they, one, ignore the professional qualifications of the workers in the sector, and two, because they are causing a dramatically fleeing part of the industry. This, in turn, friends, is causing the national labor shortage, hurting our economy and threatening the safety and care of our children. Just take a look at the headlines. I'd like to take a minute and read a couple of them for you. From the Washington Post, headline: "The pay is absolute crap. Child care workers are quitting rapidly, a red flag for the economy." From the New York Times, "Can't compete. Why hiring for child care is such a huge struggle." From CNN Business, "Child care workers are vanishing and it's hurting the entire economy." And just this June, from the Buffalo News, "Child care remains an issue for some job candidates." Then take a look at the domino effect, friends. Those child care worker wages cause a loss of child care workers, which causes a labor shortage. So that train wreck is why we are here. Let's talk now about who is here. Whose business is it to care about this train wreck and this problem affecting our economy and our children? It turns out, friends, it's everyone's business. Let me just ask you, do we have any parents here who are just trying to get to work to make their kiddos safe? Are there any parents here? Yes, raise your hands. Yep. Do we have any child care providers here who love children or are just trying to earn a living? Make some noise if you're a child care provider. Yes. Do we have any early childhood students and educators here who study early childhood education and just want to understand how critical it is to children's success? Any child here? Yep, students, yep, we got those. Do we have any business leaders here or small business owners, including child care providers who are also small business owners who can't find workers and they need to get workers in order to grow their business? Any business sector representatives here? Yes. One more question. Do we have any lawmakers here? Lawmakers who are just trying to keep up with the issue and make sure they solve this problem for their constituents? Are there any lawmakers here? Yeah, turns out, yeah. Wow, it really looks like everyone's here. That must be because childcare is everyone's business. So the only thing that we've left out then, friends, is what it's going to take to get out of here. This year's state budget was a huge help in getting us out of this mess, and we have state lawmakers on deck to tell us more about that. But more support is needed, especially from Washington. To break it down for us and lay out the problem in greater detail and tell us our way out, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, high road economist and mother, grandmother, mentor extraordinaire, Lou Jean Flaron from Cornell University.
Thank you so much, Maria, and to all of you. I'm delighted to be here. This has been such a broad-based collaborative project that it would take all of my time just to thank the folks who have made it possible. But we have special gratitude, of course, to Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz, whose leadership through the pandemic has created a pioneer effort in child care innovation, and to Deputy County Executive Maria White and Commissioner Marie Cannon, the totally tireless co-chairs of this task force, and the winners of state and national awards for it. I just say winners is a fine title for the dynamic duo of Maria and Marie, so thank you for that. To Assembly Member Monica Wallace for her leadership on child care and state budget talks and support of this initiative. To County Legislator Lisa Chimera, we appreciate her championing this issue. And to my colleagues, Kathy Creighton, who is here, and Rusty Weaver, a huge thanks. The task force itself deserves our strong gratitude. And being here behind me, it's almost like a brigade for children is how it feels. And I'm so happy to have been a part of this. The real world expertise of this task force is what has made this a real action research project. And my heartfelt thanks also go to the dedicated work of the Project Steering Committee, some of them here, often meeting weekly. They kept us going in the same direction, even in the right direction for this year-long initiative. So you are going to hear from many voices important in this press conference today. So I'm going to be as brief as possible in the highlights that I share with you. I invite you to read the report, which is available on both the county and Cornell's website, and to refer to highlights, which I think will be available to you later today. So I'm going to stick to my text a little bit more to make sure I don't run over into other people's time. The research methods of this project were a survey of all of Erie County's 499 child care providers, focus groups, in-depth analysis of public economic and geographic data on the child care industry and the workforce here in Erie County. And results of that analysis was published in phase 1 of this in January. Then it was widely shared with advocates and public officials so that the information could be actionable and utilized to inform and influence state policy through the state budget. Then when the state budget was passed in early April, the task force evaluated the changes, the progresses made, and collaboratively proposed solutions and recommendations for next step. So now, here we are with phase 2, the full report on this year-long effort, along with, as Maria said, and as others are illustrating here, a call to action for taking those next steps forwards. So starting with some of the problems, which Maria gave you a brief outline of and you live with day in and day out. But the true costs of childcare are not only the numbers on balance sheets of childcare institutions, the true costs ripple through the community and the economy, and the numbers speak for themselves. All of these numbers I'm going to give you now refer to Erie County unless I note otherwise. You know, childcare is a very labor-intensive professional service industry. So employment is a strong indicator of the supply of the service. And after rising for about 10 years prior to the pandemic, employment in childcare is currently only 80% of what it was in 2018. But there is no decline in demand, in the need for childcare. And licensed providers can serve less than 1 in 3 children living in households where all adults are working in Erie County. So again, if we ask why, there's not a mystery there. Child care workers earn less than half the median wages of other workers in Erie County. And across New York, the median wages in childcare are below the state's minimum wage. You may ask, how is that possible? It's because the dedicated professionals in this industry work beyond their paid hours. Their average hourly pay is $10.27. Illustrative of the rampant inequality in this sector, the average hourly pay in East Buffalo is $8.22, only 31% of the living wage in that community. In fact, 80% of all child care professionals earn below the living wage, compared with 45% of all other workers. In terms we can all empathize with and understand, the average annual wage of full-time child care workers is just under $24,000. So too often, these professionals are themselves among the working poor. 31% of child care workers rely on Medicaid. 19% are eligible for public assistance income, and 18% receive SNAP benefits. Who are they? 88% are women. Among them, people of color make up twice the workforce in child care as a whole. This sad reality is inequitable and unsustainable and has been that way for a long time. In fact, we must face up to the fact that the U.S. child care system sits on a historical foundation of unpaid labor, the labor of enslaved people, of undocumented workers, and women restricted to domestic work by either law or tradition. To this day, child care workers, like other caregiving service workers, are disproportionately people of color and overwhelmingly women. So it's not by chance that those are among the lowest paid occupations in the country. It's also not acceptable that they are. So the problems that I just illustrated are part of why Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen described the U.S. child care system as, quote, a textbook example of a broken market. It's perfectly clear the market cannot fix this problem because parents cannot pay enough to cover the actual costs of child care. Public funding is required. Currently, the bulk of that funding is subsidies for income-eligible families, which leads us to some points of progress. Phase one of this report identified the exact gaps between subsidies and the actual costs of care, and between the subsidy and the cost if child care workers earned a living wage. That data gave policymakers valuable quantitative information and allowed us to measure what happened to those subsidy to cost gaps after the new rates went into effect June 1st. And here's what we find. And some of this is on the board. You can feel free to look at them instead of me and to see what I'm saying here. So here's what we find. Family-based care subsidies increased by almost half in this budget year, while center-based care received an average increase of 22%. However, because the gap was much larger for family care anyway, their new rates did not close the gap, while those for center-based care did. Nevertheless, this differential is a significant step forward in reducing one aspect of the gross inequity found in the child care sector. The big gaps that remain are those to reach living wages. The 2022 New York State subsidy increases closed less than 40% of the gap in funding needed to pay child care professionals a living wage. The second progress that was made, quantitative progress that was made in this year's budget, was an increase in state support in the form of expanded eligibility for families to receive the subsidy benefit, from 200% of the federal poverty level to 300%. So, for example, eligibility for a parent with one child went from a household income of less than $37,000 to almost $55,000. For a household of four, from $55,000 to over $83,000. These increases will bring needed relief to many New Yorker residents, many Erie County residents. So that sounds promising, doesn't it? Yep, I think we can all celebrate that step forward. So we have a poster here, promising. Promising means a hopeful opportunity, right? And that, yep. But it also means a commitment to promise to do something. So now is the time for both. The question is, how will we collectively recreate childcare? not just find a temporary fix to a historic emergency, which goes back through American history. It's not easy to do this. That is why the solutions need to be crafted with those who know the system best, working with the best information possible for understanding the problems and the opportunities, creating lasting solutions, and enlisting the absolutely necessary support of the federal government. Erie County and the partners of this project have a really fine start. They, I think we should say we, all of us, can be a laboratory for innovative solutions at the local level. We can provide leadership to the movement for state and federal funding and policies necessary to achieve universal child care. Everyone can join this energized democratic process. And as part of that, our partners identified many varied opportunities for steps forward. I'm just going to mention a few. Please look at all the others in the report because there are many things that we can work on together that have a good start here. One is for professional child care workforce training. There's a very good reason we're here at ECC today. Another is to continue to work with the advocates, New York State Child Care Availability Task Force, Empire State Campaign for Child Care, and other statewide and national advocacy efforts. Another is for specific partnerships with employers and unions. And there's another one of those afoot with the Women's Foundation and Cornell and other organizations doing a mapping project linking employers with child care availability. So we can collaborate, we can innovate, we can create pooled insurance fund and other group benefit funds. We can support the cooperative model of enterprise development in child care. We can continue the study of child care workforce and industry to better understand the strengths and the weaknesses, to assess the effectiveness of the policy changes and other innovations. We have to fund child care. We have to develop multiple sources for direct funding specifically for increased wages, and we have to gear up for maximum pressure on our federal government representatives to commit to transforming child care to a public good with federal funds sufficient to make that a reality. So personally, I'm so happy to be here because I have worked with many of the people in this task force for a long time. The public policy that matters to families has always been very important to me. And personally, I'm a third-generation educator with 8 children and 15 what have I got? I've got 8. I can't count them anymore. I have 8 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren. And so early education is really very personal to me. And then I wrote that, and then I thought, well, of course, it's very personal to everybody. That's exactly the point. And it's also a critical interlocking building block of our economic and social future. So given the dedication and determination of the young people, the caregivers who worked on this project, I fully expect that promise will turn into a lot more progress. I thank you all very much.
Thank you so much to Lou Jean for presenting the true cost of child care in Erie County. This study we have available on our website. It went up at 9 a.m. this morning, and we've got hard copies here in case you'd like it. I'd like to just take a minute and thank Chairwoman April Baskin, who has joined us. Please join me in giving her a round of applause. And she wasn't here when I introduced her earlier, but the amazing Nothing About Us Without Us DSS Commissioner Marie Cannon. Where is she? There she is. Yes. So next, to tell us a little bit more about the wages in the sector and what life is like as a child care provider, both before, with, and after the state budget increases, I'd like to bring to the podium now our 3 featured child care providers. Sophia Mato, who is CEO of Little Angels Daycare, Colleen Brecker, who is CEO of Early Bird Child Care Centers, and Diane Abrams, who is CEO of Toot Toot Daycare. Please join me in giving them a warm welcome.
Hello and thank you. This was such an amazing study. Hello, Jean. It tells a lot about us, and it gives all numbers, and I'm going to have a little narrative about the numbers so we fit everything together. It took for COVID-19 to reveal the magnitude of crises that childcare industry is presently in. In my 35-year work history, I have never witnessed being more done for childcare industry than today. Number of community organizations familiar with childcare industry stand together with us, childcare center providers in all modalities, looking for ways on how to keep this essential industry operational. It used to be that we were on our own, surviving with slim revenues from a mixture of private clientele and supplemental funding from childcare subsidies. We were pushed hard on all sides to follow endless regulations and legal requirements while cutting every possible expense to stay afloat and be affordable for our clientele. It has resulted in substandard wages for childcare workers and without benefits. These were and still are today among the lowest paid jobs in our country. Why is that? I challenge the political and business communities to answer this question. Though times have changed, COVID came and put another strain on our industry. Our employees were exposed to this virus every day as they worked throughout. They were scared, knowing they were endangering themselves and their families, and cognizant of the fact that many others were taking the time off, staying at home, and receiving benefits. I was lucky that my own staff took pride in their work and remained steadfast in those uncertain times. They helped our community to go back to work and helped local schools conduct online classes as their own students were attending our newly converted classrooms in daycare centers. Now, although a lot of funding has been approved as of recently, it isn't even close to what we need to sustain our industry. We came so close to attaining something equitable for everyone, business, clients, parents, and very important teachers that teach in our programs. But it all unrevealed as we were faced with a new reality. Public schools took advantage of newfound access to child care funds and the care of our 3- and 4-year-old children, both of which have been essential to our already struggling business model. Although this may have been an unintended consequence, we are rapidly descending toward the end of childcare industry as we know it. I should also mention that as people became aware of our industry exhausting workday responsibilities and substandard compensations with little or no benefits, we now find our work pools completely depleted of qualified, willing candidates for our field. It is ironic that with so many funds finally being made available, their segregation to our adjacent industries could spell the end of childcare services as we know them. I thank you for listening, and should anyone have any more questions about this, we all know what our problems are. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Brecker, the Director of Early Bird Child Care Centers. I am honored to be a member of the steering committee where we were tasked to determine the true cost of care. After interviewing providers and with the help of our amazing Cornell scientists, we determined that the funding we received for subsidy childcare was not enough to cover the day-to-day costs nor pay our salaries. Because of this problem, some centers actually had to close, while others, like my own, had long waiting lists for subsidized care. Although I had classroom space for more children, I wasn't able to afford to hire more teachers. I am happy to announce, as a result of the findings and hard work of our committee members, there has been an increase in subsidy funding. I have now been able to hire more teachers, and as of today, I have taken 6 families off of my wait list and accepted their children into my center. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diane Abram. I am a group family daycare provider of 32 years. I'm also the founder of a family daycare association called Workforce Solutions Consortium, which is an organization for family daycare providers. The grants were helpful, but it's simply not enough to sustain our child care businesses. Even when the grants, which were reduced this year, we are unable to compete in the current job market. In fact, we are losing staff to jobs that pay higher wages and provide benefits. A person can earn more money working for a fast food chain than working as an early childhood educator that provide the stepping stones for future learning, growth, and cognitive and emotional development to young children. I find it to be a gross neglect for the federal government not to significantly increase funding to support our struggling, essential child daycare businesses. Even though the pandemic is nearing the end, we are living in the fallout. It will take several years for the economy to recover, and longer if daycares are not funded and supported by the federal government in providing quality child care. Many parents cannot work without reliable child care, and child daycare cannot work effectively until our own workforce is secure. It is an economic and workforce development issue. Quality child care is essential to our economy. The money that we received last year was not enough, and this year it was reduced even further. That simply won't do. Child care is everyone's business. We need support from our business community, as well as immediate, substantial, and long-term funding from the federal government to help pay child care workers a living wage and preserve our child daycare services industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our child care professionals who are holding up this system. Next, I'd really like to introduce Dr. David Balkin, who is our host here today. He's going to share with us a little bit about the early childhood program here at SUNY Erie and introduce his student, Megan Gleason. Dr. Balkin, please join us.
Thank you, Maria. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dave Balkin, president of SUNY Erie Community College, and I'm honored that our college is serving as the host for today's important news conference. ECC has long been a leader in early childhood education. The importance of this field in our society cannot be overstated. One of the biggest barriers our economy has experienced coming out of the pandemic has been the lack of quality childcare, making it difficult, if not impossible, for many parents to return to the workforce. This has literally slowed our country's, our states, and our region's economic recovery. Even those in newfound work-home situations know the challenges and pitfalls of working at home while raising small children. Quality childcare is a service that working parents sorely need, but low wages have caused many trained professionals to turn their backs on a career they love because they simply cannot make ends meet. And believe me, the students who come here to study this field love what they do, and the path to become certified is not easy. In addition to class lectures, our students interact with young children alongside certified teachers in early childhood centers for 45 lab hours per course. Their coursework culminates with student teaching and a final seminar in which they complete 135 additional experiential hours. ECC is working to grow our early childhood education program to keep pace with the needs of Western New York. And we stand ready to create new partnerships with corporate and civic partners. We welcome the chance to develop custom solutions for your workforce, blending our expertise with the convenience of on-site solutions or other creative endeavors. However, the truth is we can only do so much, and our important role is only part of the solution. We need our partners in government to step up to ensure that minimum wages and other protections are established to enable a healthy pipeline of program candidates who can look forward to a long, financially viable career set. Our students are preparing for jobs in which they will literally be responsible for the safety and development of our community's youngest children. Yet inexplicably, they're among the lowest paid critical workers. Make no mistake, childcare is a high-pressure, high-stakes work environment, and it should be respected and compensated accordingly. Please join us in voicing these concerns to our officials in Washington. It's vital to our economic growth and our children's future. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you one of our rising stars in the field, Megan Gleason.
Thank you all for inviting me to join you today and for your advocacy in this important area. Before working with young children, I worked in customer service and food service jobs, which I found challenging and interesting. But at the end of the day, I would be drained and wondered if there was something more out there for me, a way to have a bigger impact on the lives of others. I am proud to say that I am a future early childhood educator entering my final year here at SUNY Erie. If you had asked me a year and a half ago what I thought this program would teach me, I would have naively told you, probably not a lot. After all, I have worked with dozens of children ranging from typical to special needs. What else could I learn? My motivation for earning this degree, honestly, was to be paid more than minimum wage. I wanted to earn what I'm worth. Now I stand before you today much wiser with the clear understanding that those two things are intrinsically related. At SUNY Erie, I have learned to be a better observer, a better educator, and a better listener. I've also become a fierce advocate for children and the professionals in my field because of the role that they play in our child's development as well as our economic development. It's vital. I've found through my coursework just how deep my passion runs. It's cliche to say that our children are the future, but it is a fact. They deserve the best that I can offer because it is a magical moment the first time a baby rolls over and when the toddler takes their very first steps. They start out shaky and slow, but they learn and they grow. And every time a child has that little click moment when they figure out a new skill, their world makes a little more sense. And knowing that I played a role in their development is rewarding and humbling because they are going to be using those skills that they learn now for the rest of their lives. But why then are professionals in my field so underpaid? Why do we value their role so little? They share in the responsibility of caring for and raising and keeping alive our community's children. Do we think so little of them that they don't deserve a living wage? I would argue no, because the second someone does something wrong at a child care center, the media is quick to descend, demanding accountability and answers. Well, here are your answers. There are many like me who cannot adequately express how much we love working with children, yet far too many have left the field or have not even entered it to begin with because the pay is too low. I understand that by entering this field, I'm not going to get a vacation home in France, but I shouldn't have to worry about making enough to buy a modest home for me and my family. Every early childhood educator is keenly aware of these roadblocks, and for many, it is too high a barrier. Without qualified professionals, we create a knowledge gap that gets filled with people like me, 2 years ago, workers with no formal training who think their life experiences are enough to get by. I know now how misguided that was. I've already become a far better educator, and I still have a full year remaining. It is this better version of myself that stands here today to impress upon you the importance of ensuring financial security for this critical industry's workforce. Professionals who can focus on teaching can give far more to our community's children than if they're struggling paycheck to paycheck. Please tell our federal government it is time to recognize the importance of these professionals by fueling our workforce with financial security and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Another round of applause for Megan and for all of our students. Woohoo! That's why we're here, Dr. Balkin. Thank you so much again for hosting us. It's now my great pleasure to turn our program over to the elected officials that have really emerged as leaders in this space. And I want to start, of course, with our county executive, Mark Poloncarz. The county executive is going to tell us a little bit about how we have emerged in Erie County as part of a local and national effort to reform the child care system. He's going to share with us why this is a workforce and economic development issue and why it's important for Washington to carry on the fight. Please introduce Mark Poloncarz.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be brief. You have heard from a lot of speakers who know much more about this subject matter than I do. First off, very shortly, as you may know, we are losing somebody in the Erie County workforce, our Deputy County Executive, Maria White, who will be joining the Greater Community Foundation of Buffalo to be their Chief Impact Officer. And I know she's going to have a big impact on this community because I've seen her in action the last few years. I just want to say thank you to Maria for all your good work on behalf of the people of Erie County. And in some ways, we would not be here today without her running into my office during the early weeks of the pandemic saying, we have to address childcare. And I think she smacked my table twice. Uh-oh, I know she's SUNY or something. It comes down to this. We really have worked very hard over the last 2 years to address this issue on a local and statewide level. And I can testify to you today that the changes in New York State government would not have happened except for the work of this great task force and the work that was done by Cornell on the research. They did not have these numbers. They did not believe that truthfully there was an issue. So to Lou Jean Flaron, Kathy Creighton, the entire team from Cornell, thank you. To the task force, thank you for all of your work to ensure that this information be shared. We understand as a community the issues that we face. Unfortunately, it is not necessarily that case across the rest of the country. As a lot of you know, I just took a tour of the country with my father. It was really cool. It was a really great trip. But I was driving around and I was seeing signs out in front of places saying, now paying $8 an hour. Remember what the federal minimum wage is. It's $7.25 an hour. And that's about what we're talking about. We're talking about paying people appropriately for the jobs that they do. And that requires the federal government to not only address these issues associated with child care and the child care industry nationwide, but to also increase the federal minimum wage so that individuals are being paid for the services that they provide for our community. And it's going to be a tough fight. I don't want to sit here today and say, hey, it's did great work and it's over with. It's not. It's going to require everyone. If you have friends and family members who live in other states, you need them to contact their representatives and their senators to say, it's time to finally increase the federal minimum wage, which has not been increased in more than 2 decades. It's time to finally pay child care workers the amount that they deserve for this important service that they provide the people of our community. So, to all that are here and gathered, the work that you did during the COVID-19 pandemic was incredible. We would not have had the virtual learning centers without you. But we would also not be here today to, in some ways, be very supportive of the work that New York State did in increasing the rates. They have made a difference. I know they've made a difference. We've already heard the story about how they've made a difference. But as we know, it's not enough. So that's why we all need to continue to work together to address this issue. I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank Dr. Balkin and the entire team from SUNY Erie for the good work that you've done, even if I may have damaged your podium here. You know what? The county pays for it anyway, so we'll end up paying for it. We pay for their equipment. We pay for these buildings. This building is owned by the people of Erie County. Never forget that. And in some ways, I'll be paying for this podium, which I may have just broken. Anyway, anyone, have a great day. Thank you for all your good work, and continue the fight. And it's going to take everyone, including your family members, your friends, and every state across this great nation, because we have to tie these issues together, and that's the only way it's going to get fixed. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the county executive. And now I really want to introduce our state lawmakers. We're joined by many state lawmakers, but there are a few here that have come forward to speak. Chief among them is Assemblymember Monica Wallace, who really took this study, the end of the phase 1 study in January, and ran with it. She ran with it in her colleagues in the New York State Assembly and in the New York State Senate, and we really would not have experienced the success that you heard from today had it not been for the leadership of Assemblymember Monica Wallace. Please join me in welcoming her to the podium.
Thank you so much to Deputy County Executive Maria White. And, you know, really, as County Executive Poloncarz mentioned, Maria was the driving force behind this in many ways. And we are happy to see her go, but we're going to really miss you, and we look forward to working with you in another capacity. But we're so fortunate that you were in the position that you were in at the time that you were, and that County Executive Poloncarz, who understands how important this issue is, listen to you and move forward on this issue. I want to thank County Executive Poloncarz for his commitment. I want to thank Cornell ILR and Buffalo Collab, especially Lugene Floran and Kathy Creighton and Rusty Weaver for all of their great work. I want to thank Erie President Dr. Balkin, not only for hosting, but also for this beautiful facility, and for, which of course Erie County owns, but also for the great program run. And also to the students and all of the providers who are here today for helping to highlight how critically important this issue is. As many have already pointed out, the pandemic exposed and laid bare something that everyone in this room and every working mom already knew, and that is affordable, accessible childcare is absolutely essential to working families, and absolutely essential to allowing every woman in society to achieve her full potential and fully participate in the workforce. Funding childcare is good for employers, it is good for employees, it is good for working families, it is good for the economy. As some have already said, it is, in short, a public good, just like public education. This is an issue, just like it is to everyone in this room, this is an issue that is very personal to me. I have said many times before, I was raised by a working mom. My parents were divorced when I was very young. My mom was left with 3 kids all by herself, and she had to go to work. And if it wasn't for subsidized, affordable childcare, even way back then, she would not have been able to go to work. We probably would have been homeless, and my life definitely would have been very different. So this is an issue that I deeply, deeply care about. And I want to thank everyone behind me for helping me to advance this. Especially Cornell for the incredible work that they did in gathering